The Alchemy of Tattooing, Wisdoms of Ancestor Tattoo, where we explore and revive the ancient understandings and methods of tattooing for transformation, creation, and shifting into a higher vibration through processes so effective that it seems like magic. Or is it indeed the true definition of magic? The Alchemy of Tattooing. Alright, we've got Gordon Toi here today. Maybe start with just introducing yourself, how you got into Moko, and whatever you want to go from there.
Tēnā tātou, ko Gordon Toi ahau no hokianga, whakapau karakia te awa, whiria te maunga, ngā toki mata whaurua te waka, rāhiri te tangata, Ngāti korokoro, Ngāti whararā taku hapu, te whakarongotai te marae, ko ngāpu i te iwi, tēnā tātou katoa. I sort of accidentally got into Moko, bro, about 26 years ago, I think, maybe a little bit longer. Through another friend of mine, Te Rangi Kaihoro. He had already started his tattoo apprenticeship with Phil Matthias up on College Hill there. Mm-hmm. And actually tried to convince me to come and do the apprenticeship with him. But at that stage, the only thing I had on my mind was to wear it, not to do it. So I passed on that first request. And then a couple of years down the track, he'd come back from Phil's shop and he had tattooed a small portion of the Pūhoro on his thigh. And I was like, oh man, that's amazing, bro. I'm ready. So start tattooing me. So we began my Pūhoro way back then. And at that stage, I still didn't have any inkling to want to tattoo myself. But sometime after Laurie had finished my Pūhoro, I asked him about his, thighs, So we had just come off a 3-day carving, wānanga him and I, around the clock, kind of a thing. So we were, feeling pretty good and enthusiastic about things. So he said, "Oh, why don't you draw something on my legs and see how it goes?" So I did, and he said, "Oh, well, it looks pretty good. You might as well tattoo me." And so the inspiration for me was not about like the tattooing, was more about hurting him like he hurt me. So that opportunity, bro, was just, I wasn't going to waste it. So I said, yeah, all right then, I will. And then, so we went back to his place, set up all the gear and everything like that. I'd been sort of assisting him from time to time at different wānanga and stuff. And once we got all the gear set up, I started tattooing, man, and I tell you, it was just like a bolt of lightning, that struck a chord, and it was the same kind of a feeling I had when I first picked up a chisel and smacked it into a bit of timber, that it was euphoric, and it just gave me a natural high, and pretty much, bro, I haven't looked back, and I guess, all the way down the track to now, I've always been very, very inspired by Pūhoro. Not so much kanohi for some reason, but I think what it is, for me personally anyway, is the process of Pūhoro excites me, because it's a... because it's a...
got the trucks going past.
Yeah. Because it's it's a ordeal in itself, to undergo this particular process. And over the years, I've just tried to practice refining that passage, that rite of passage, to assist our men and women. We haven't had a lot of women that have received Pūhoro, but I think. Now with the likes of my daughter and Anikaro and TJ and Mātia and other wahine kaitā, that'll change over the coming sort of 10 years. Yeah. But for now, it's predominantly men. And so just helping assist our men and uplifting our men through that rite of passage, and also kind of pushing the boundaries of the art form itself, That's a huge amount of canvas to fill in such a short amount of time. So those opportunities, when they come, you can't just take it for granted. And you can't just waste that skin or waste that time or anything. There is no time to waste when you're working on a pūhoro. A kanohi can take anything from like 2.5 to maybe 4 hours now, I remember in the early days to do a male's kanohi was about 10 hours,
Yeah.
and that was a full-on day, so that was quite a journey. But now, I mean, a kauai is like under bloody 15 minutes, and that's not taking away I don't believe at least any mana away from the process of that. We've just become better technicians at our skill. Yeah. So I mean, and that's an advantage for the receiver, in my opinion. To be able to spend less time on the table than more time. But pūhoro for me, it just seems to be the thing that I am more attracted to, and everything about it kind of speaks volumes to the mastery sort of craftsmanship of our ancestors. It's a very holistic approach to tattooing. It's not just putting ink and skin. There's a whole other side to it, controlling the environment, the karakia process, the consultation process, the use of the stretches in terms of relating it back to the pūrako of what moko is all about, with mataora and niwareka and uetonga, ruau moko, all these particular sort of ancestral elements play their part in that process, and you as the kaiwhakahaere of that waka, you gotta pull all those elements together in order for it to fruit, to bear fruit, so that the person that's on the table is if they're playing their part and the stretchers are doing their job, I'm doing my job, that's when the magic happens, that's when the real powerful philosophy of what moko is all about really starts to come alive, the Māori of it,
Yes.
and that for me is, that's what floats my boat at least.
So, just in case some people aren't familiar with the terms, you've got pūhoro, kanohi, kauai. What are those?
So,
if you were to explain them.
Facial tattooing on the females is called a kauai. So it's the chin area, and that particular design there is not too much variation in terms of the aesthetic look. So from one to the other, it's very, very similar. And there's good reason for that. Nowadays, with the types of machines and tools that we're using, it enables the artist to be able to sort of like push also the boundaries of their very small place on the chin. So I've seen some brilliant pieces coming out of different artists around the country that are producing just some outstanding kauai. Kanohi mataora for men is a full face, or in many cases there's a bit of a trend at the moment with these half faces and stuff like that. So this is a normal thing, part of the process as well, when a person is receiving their facial tattoos as a male, where they start off with a small section first, and as they progress with their skill base or their school of learning or whatever it is that they're involved in, then other pieces are added to it, Of course, there's the ariki line or the chiefly lines, that everything was accorded to them by birthright. So, our high-ranking chiefly lines were given, full pūhoro, full kanohi, whatever they wanted, they had. But for us plebs, we had to kind of work our way up the ladder. Now, for males, also, we had the opportunity to receive a pūhoro. The pūhoro is a 3/4 bodysuit that starts from just below the knees and ends about halfway up the rib cage. So that process at the moment is taking between 4.5 to 5 days, depending on the size of the beast. The Pūhoro, there's lots of different names that are popping up since we've been reviving this art form. Peha is another name that people use. Here in the House of Natives, we use the name Te Whāriki Tapu or Uetonga. The name being that it references Uetonga, which was the creator or the artist that actually produced the male's design on their face. And the whāriki part of the name comes from the weaving together of all the different stories, pūrākau and kōrero, whakapapa and things like that. It's also a reference to his daughter, Niwareka, who brought back with Mataora to Te Ao Marama, to the world of light, the art of tattooing and the art of weaving. And so these two art forms coexist together. And all those designs that we put on people's bodies and stuff like that are always referencing either weaving designs or patterns that refer to that connection between male and female.
Would you share with us the story of that and how the origins of Moko? And there's over my life I've heard slightly different stories and from different areas and different iwi, and it's interesting to hear the different stories or the slight difference in references with what happened. And
well, the story that I was told, it actually came to me from a good friend of mine. We went through the carving school together, Ian Wayne Grant, and he shared this story with me years ago, just not long after I'd started actually. But over the years, it's as you delve deeper and deeper into the art of Moko, there are other elements, and you're correct. Everybody has their own version, their own perspective of that story, and sometimes you'll hear things and you add that to your mix as well, and it becomes your foundation for what you believe in. It's a little bit like to me, it's a little bit like religion, I suppose. There's a saying that we have here is trust the process. Trusting the process is having faith in the ability that the knowledge that was given over by our tupuna or handed down to us is good to go. We should not question it. So anyway, the story sort of starts out with Mataora and Niwareka. And Niwareka was actually from another realm, a place called Rarohinga, and like most couples do, they had a little bit of a disagreement, and she decided to return to her people. In that time of absence, Mataora, kind of realised that, the feelings that he had for his woman were significant enough to want to go and get her and, try and retrieve her. And but he was gonna need some assistance. So with that, he went to Tāne. Tāne is the god of the forests, and Tāne has many names attributed to him. And anyway, so Mataora went to Tāne, told him of his situation, and Tāne took pity on him and said, "Yeah, okay, I'll help you out by way of an ope, or a small group of birds that will accompany you. Now, each one of these birds will get him to the next, level, so to speak, and eventually to the realm of Rarohinga." Now, one of these birds was a kiwi, the other one was a ruru, the other one was a peka peka, and a kaka. The fifth one was a toro, an albatross. And so, anyway, they eventually came to the realm of Rarohinga. And the story goes is that there was a whare there, and inside the maho or the porch was a man, and that man's name was Uetonga. So Mataora approached Uetonga and told him why he was there, and without realising, I suppose, didn't quite know who Uetonga was, and Uetonga was the father of Niwareka. Mm-hmm. So as this fella's telling him about what went down, you can imagine, as a father, he's probably thinking, oh yeah, all right then, this is the mongrel that's come to sort of, win back the mana of my daughter. And so Uetonga said to him, well, yeah, Niwareka is inside the whare, but you can't go in there. And he says, oh, well, why is that? And he says, well, it's another realm in there, man. You won't even be recognised. You got no markings in there. There's a wairua in there that you are unfamiliar with. So therefore you won't be recognised. And so Mataora continued to press on about the seriousness of wanting to earn back the mana of his woman. So eventually Uetonga sort of said to him, well, okay, man, you can go in there. I'll paint some designs on your face. And so Mataora thought, oh, well, that'll do, do it. So he laid down and Uetonga began to paint these designs on their face. Now this act is what we, call like kirituhi. So kiri is skin, tuhi is to draw or to paint. This art form comes from the art form of ko whaiwhai. Now, if you've ever seen matatini, our cultural performances, and you see a lot of the performers on stage and they have, drawn on mokos on their face and on their bodies. And of course, when they're getting into their routines, they start to sweat. And of course, those markings begin to run. And this is exactly what happened to Mataora when he went into the house and was confronted by that wairua within that realm. He became very nervous and started to, kind of freak out a little bit, and that paint started to run off his face. So it kind of exposed him, It showed the people in there that he wasn't he wasn't quite ready to show himself his true self. So he exited the house. In the time that Mataora was inside the whare, Uetonga had placed these manu in certain parts of the maho. And when Mataora came out, Uetonga said, well, what the hell happened? And Mataora said, well, it was like you said, I didn't know what the hell was going on in there. And, they were, strange things I'd never ever sort of seen before. Things were coming at me left, right and centre, and I didn't quite know how to handle it. And when the paint started to run off my face, everybody started laughing at me. So I exited the house. And so Uetonga said to him, well, how do you still feel, man? You still want to, you still serious about, finding your woman? He said, yeah. And he was a bit disheartened by what had happened in the house. So Uetonga said, well, if you truly are committed to your woman, I can carve those designs into your face. So, maybe a test as a father, I think, when you analyse the story, there's layers to the story. And I think, if it was my daughter, I'd want this fella to be tested. So I think, from a practical sense, when I analyse the story, Uetonga was really challenging Mataora's commitment to his daughter. And Mataora agreed. So he laid down, and Uetonga used the positions of the bird and the maho to form the male facial tattoo. So the first part that was done was the tifana, which is the upper forehead area. The bird that he fashioned that design of was the peka, the bat. Now, if you look at the male kanohi, or the male face, on the forehead you'll have these long lines that sort of spread up over the forehead. Those represent the wings of the bat. The next design he did was on the nose. The bird he used there was the kaka. The wānanga that the kaka has is that its ability to be able to use its senses, you know, sight, sound, taste, smell, all those types of things. This bird is acute at being able to, you know, tune into those different things. The peka, I should say also to that particular bird, when it communicates, it communicates on higher levels, frequencies, you know. So this is a, you know, this is where sort of tohungatanga and makutu and all these types of wānanga are attributed to, because, you know, one needs to be a master, or at least articulate, you know, and communicate on higher levels, either with our atua or our tupuna that have passed on, also with the living as well, you know, the negotiators, the kai kōrero, you know, the ones that speak on the maraes on behalf of all our people. They have to be proficient, they have to be articulate, so they have to be able to have the ability to communicate, whether it's by use of word or by, you know, other forms. The next bird that he tattooed onto Mataora's face was the kiwi. Now the kiwi he had placed on the paipai of the whare. Now it's not often that that bird is sort of in that position so low to the ground. If you look at the native ruru, it has little head feathers on the top. The moko kauai that the women wear, this is where this design comes from. It actually forms an abstract aesthetic from the head of a ruru. So those little bits that come up onto the sides of the lips is actually the head feathers, and the spirals or the pūhoros that follow down are the eyes. So it's an abstract form of the ruru. So because that bird was so low down into the paipai, Uitonga had placed its whanaunga, the kiwi, next to it. So on the face, on the male face, from the nose, the nostrils, down below the chin, are these long lines. Now that's the beak of the kiwi. The lower spiral on the side of the face is the kiwi's head, or the eye. Now, and with that is actually the basic formatting for the male's face, and as well as the females for the kaua. You'll see full-faced male kanohis, and they have other spirals, a secondary spiral up on the cheek. This realm here is Tā Moko. It calls in or acknowledges all the different atua that exist within this realm. So tāne, tangaroa, tāwhiri mātia, all these types of atua that exist within this realm of light is acknowledged within that area there. Yeah. So that's basically the format for where facial design came from. Now, after Mataora received this facial moko, he went back into the house and, of course, retrieved his woman. It was also a sign to her that it showed her just how committed he was to her. So with that, she decided to return to Te Ao Marama, to the world of light with him. And Uitonga gifted the art of moko to Mataora with the tools. Or I might add, the tool that he used to carve Mataora's face was actually from a wing bone of a toro. So that was the last bird that was used. Now, when you have big kaupapa like this, again, this is another sort of like, you know, another layer to that story. What I believe, when you're on a big kaupapa like that, there's always got to be some form of sacrifice, you know. And unfortunately, that toroa sacrificed itself for the opportunity to have his wing bone made into a tattooing tool that we call uhi, and uhi whao. and Uetunga use that bone to acknowledge, perform that moko. Now, the rhythm that we use when we are tattooing with hand tools, traditional tools, there are many different rangi, or there are many different tunes that the different islands throughout Polynesia adopt. But here in Aotearoa, we're quite unique because our designs consist of small spirals, and if you look at Samoa, for example, and places like Hawaii and Tahiti, they have geometric sort of symbols. Therefore, their technique is slightly different. However, in Aotearoa, we have these very, very small curves and the korus and the pūhoros and different circular designs. And our rhythm is different, and it's dictated by all these circular designs. So the rhythm that we use is more like a clap, a very slow clap. That sound, when it's tapped that way, is actually to acknowledge that toro that sacrificed itself for the art form, you know. So we acknowledge and we pay respect to that particular bird for giving up its life, and that rangi that we use, that tuck 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 tuck, can be heard also when the albatrosses are mating. So when they're calling in a mate, they use their beaks, and it's that very same sound, that num 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 num, yeah. And that's the same sound we use when we're tattooing as well. When Mataora and Niwareka returned to Te Ao Marama, she brought with her the art form of weaving, and he the art of tattooing. Now, another layer that's into that story, you know, sometimes people, when they tell that story or hear that story, they concentrate on the argument, you know, on the situation, the conflict.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
And to me, we are born of conflict, you know. It's part of our human condition to you know, to go to war. You know, we just don't learn anything from it. We continue to, you know, have these outbursts in our history that, you know, we just never ever learn. So to me, when people kind of focus in on the argument or whatever happened between those two, that's not the point. You're kind of you're actually missing the point. To me, what this whole story is about, or the philosophy behind it, it's about how far are you willing to go? How committed are you to your kaupapa? You know? You know, and Mataora, he literally showed how far he was willing to go to have those designs carved permanently into his face. So that became somewhat of a contract, you know. And that's how I see moko today, is that it's a visual contract of our commitment to our families, to our hapu, to our iwi, to our culture, you know. It's a personal contract between you and it, and no one can take it away, you know. So it's a very powerful visual metaphor for people to, you know, walk around with ink in their skin, because you know when you see another tattooed person that they've been through something. When I see somebody with no tattoos on them, I think, wow, what a boring life. You're a nobody, you know. But when I see somebody with ink in their skin, whether it's moko or tattooing or whatever, you know, these fellas have had some experience in life, you know, and that is quite a powerful, you know, message that you can, you know, send to people without even saying anything. They just need to look at you and like, Jesus, you know.
So with the journey of receiving the Pūhoro, it's a really important and transformational journey for those who are getting it and receiving it. What are your thoughts around that being a rite of passage, or a transition from one stage to another, and what that brings to that person? What kind of Yeah, what's your thoughts around that?
Yeah, well, the answer to that is actually in that story that I just shared with you about Mataora. I think, the idea of somebody wanting to be tattooed, it starts with a thought, obviously. You get inspired by other people that you see. We're lucky in Te Ao Māori, we get inspired by our culture that has left us this beautiful art form of moko, So it's a lot easier for us to want to ink our skin. But I see the recipients much in the way as they were, as I see them much in the way that they're just like Mataora. They had to go on a bit of a journey, a bit of a discovery. We, the tattooists, are like those birds. And we assist them along we assist these people along their journey.
Yeah.
And we test them. We see how committed they are, I mean, yourself, when you've tattooed some of your clients and they haven't, their mind up here isn't quite ready to receive. You can't tattoo if the motherfucker is jumping around on your table.
Yeah.
So you have to learn tools and you have to pick up a set of teachings that allow you to be able to slow that person down to the point where you can do your work, as best as you can, and they have a better journey, rather than fighting it.
Yeah.
Because this is anyone who's been tattooed, if you go up against it, you're going to lose. You're going to lose hands down.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to give into it. And that, for a lot of people, I think is the hardest thing to do, is give into it. So you're testing that rite of passage, You really want this thing, then, I can't do it by myself. You gotta bring your game. And if you're sitting in front of me, you're here for a reason. If you trust me, then you need to trust what I'm doing is going to get you through this thing as easily as possible, as calmly as possible. You cannot fight it. The moment you start fighting it, it's game over. Then we have to tack a different way. And then the other Uncle Gordon comes out. So we don't want him to, we don't want him to come out. So it's part of our job to assist these people through their rite of passage, and I believe that all adds to the holistic approach to what we do as cultural practitioners.
The shapes that are used in the Pūhoro and the Pūhoro shape.
Yeah.
Can you share a bit about what that represents? Why is it created like that? Why is it on the legs like that?
Yeah. The aesthetics of Pūhoro is in many ways, like traditionally, you can look at like the design that I have is more adapted to the use of using hand tools. So it's you can just sort of see that all these horizontal lines would be perfect for tapping. Over the years, in the introduction of modern machines, it's allowed our artists to go beyond those restrictions that often, sometimes that traditional tools have. So for me personally, when I'm designing somebody's Pūhoro, I'm literally trying to form the designs around the muscle contours of the body, and I'm trying to find those key areas where the horo, or the spiral part of the Pūhoro design, will sit on a particular area of that muscle. So when that muscle is moving, it's actually pulling and pushing, just like muscle under the skin, Yeah. And so it again, it's another layer that's added to the aesthetic of it, because now if a person is just static or standing or sitting, your eye is caught by the designs, and it'll take you on a little bit of a journey if you follow it, Now, if that person gets up and starts moving, there's a whole different other thing. You'll start seeing all these designs moving and working in cohesion with the movement of the body. So, yeah, the designs have evolved. I'm not saying that you cannot achieve these designs, these sort of modern versions of the Pūhoro with traditional designs. You can. I know you can. Some of my study with Moko and getting up close to these preserved heads of our tupuna, the detailing on these faces were incredible. You know, they never had machines back then, my man. So I think, you know, as more of our practitioners take up traditional tools, eventually that evolution of getting those designs as tight as they once were on the face will come back into play. I've used traditional tools before and I like using them. I have nothing against them at all. In fact, those of our Samoan bros and our Hawaiian brothers out there and other indigenous cultures around the world that are using hand tools, I think it's great because, you know, traditional tools and modern tools need to coexist together. They both play a role, you know. And to me, neither one is better than the other. They just are. What's important to me is not the tool, it's what's left behind in the skin. If you don't get that story right, then you're literally fucking just tattooing a lie into these people. You know, that's the way I see it. Straight up. You know, we only get one shot at this game. It's not like we can rub this shit out. So what's left behind in the skin is so important, you know, because that's going to carry that person to their grave. You know?
We talked a little bit about the carved in look that was achieved back in the day, and you know, how did they do that? You know, we're still trying to work out maybe how that was achieved so successfully back then. What theories have you heard or come up with regards to that?
Yeah, well, you know, what I know about uhi whao is that it was a process that was repeated. So, yeah, unlike today, you know, our machines, one hit, done, finished. Whereas the art of actually carving the skin is a process that's done multiple times. And the reason being is that if anyone has, you know, received a cut in their skin, you know, of significant depth, there's two things that are going to happen. When it heals, it'll either heal flat or it'll heal keloid, which is when the skin pops out a little bit and leaves a raised bump. Now, what's happening underneath the skin to cause that is that the nerves and all the tissue and stuff is actually repairing itself. So the body's actually fixing itself, and it forms that scar. Now, once that scar is formed, you got to reopen it, because the facial tattooing in our culture was inverted. You know, so what you have to do is you've got to break those nerves again. You got to break all those little blood capillaries and all those little things that heal itself before that skin starts to drop in. Now, the mastery of that technique is not laying just one line. There's like 3 or 4 lines side by side. So that's, you know, I mean, and these are deep cuts. So that to me is the true skill of the artist, is how they did that. Now, as again, I talk about these preserved heads that I've had the privilege of sitting with and you know, and studying over the years, you know, and the detail on these things is incredible. It's more detailed than what we get in our timber. You know, some of these heads, you know. Now, in saying that too, there are some heads that I've seen where the scarring has has failed, and you can see blowouts, you can see bits of skin missing within the lines and stuff like that. So there's always that risk of that particular technique of tattooing that you're gonna go too deep or not deep enough. All those types of things. I've even sort of seen where the ink has blown out underneath the skin of some of these heads, you know. So the ink, actually, the kapara, was manually put in. So you can, you know, when you get cut, it leaves a line. It'll leave a scar line. Even a light cut, it will leave a scar line. So back in the days, it's my understanding that when they first started to use the uhi, that those lines were cut in and left without ink. So it was just a line. As that skin started to invert, and they had the design in there, again it was reopened, and you can hear these old queer from Tūhoi and Tainui. Michael King did a documentary, and they were talking. Some of them were talking about their kauai, and some of these ladies had, you know, they'd lived well into their hundreds. Some of these wahine, and they talk about when the kaitā came back into the village, reopened their moko, and manually inserted the ink, the kapara, you know, and so they just rub it in. They rub it into that scar, and as opposed to tapping it in, you know, which is the perspective we're more commonly used to. But no, it was actually manually put in. So there's all these little things, you know. So even tattooing with machines, sometimes in the right light, you'll see an indentation. You know, it's actually inverted. So those are those needles are breaking through those little nerves and those, you know, the blood capillaries and all that sort of stuff, and it severs it. But if they get an opportunity to join back again, they will. And so you got to reopen those things again. My tupuna Hungi Hika from the north, it said that his face was done several times. You know, and so things like that,
So the lines that were created first, so they're indented, and like you said, there's 2, 3, or 4 lines really close together. So the ridge is so close together. And then that's opened up again in the final part to rub in the pigment. So is there anything you want to share about moving forward in this? What's happening with the revival's full on now? And how important that is? What's your anything?
Well, you know, I kind of think the kaupapa of Moko at the moment is in a state of fucking chaos. You know, necessary chaos. You know, when things like this, they come back and they return, you know, they come back in you know, in hellfire, you know. And what I mean by chaos is that everybody's taxing everybody. There isn't any defined styles or, you know. For example, you know, if you look at the reo, for example, if you hear somebody speaking from the north, you know they're from the north just because of their pure dialect. From Taranaki, from Ngāti Porou, you know, all the different iwi, Tūhoi, we all have our own dialect, right? If you look at our artwork, like, for example, carving, you can tell the style from the north, you can tell the style from Taranaki or Ngāti Porou, or you can tell these styles, they're so defined, they're pure, you know? Moko, holy hell, you know? You couldn't tell jack shit from anything, man. That stuff is just all over the place. Part of the work of, I believe, what our kaitā should be doing is defining those styles. So it's not a Derek Lardeli or a Gordon Toi or Te. That's a Ngāti Porou style, you know. That's a Ngāpuhi style. That's a Tūhoi style. And hopefully over the coming years, within the next 20 or so years, this stage that we're at now, it's kind of like a bunch of kids in a candy store. You know, we're just grabbing at everything.
Yeah.
You know, trying to tell all these stories and, you know, throw that in there. And, you know, sometimes I look at these fellas and think, holy bloody hell, man, there's so much stuff in there. You got to strip it all back.
Yeah.
You know, just strip that shit back, man. Go back to your fellas' maraes, go back to the museums where they're holding our taonga. You know, go back and talk with your kaumātua and your kuia. You know, these stories that they have or information that they have about you know, our tupuna, they're so important to actually sort of putting all those jigsaw puzzles pieces back together again. You know, fucking colonization has fucked us up, religion has fucked us up. You know, poverty, you know, health, our state of being. You know, it's no wonder that we're in a state of chaos. But moko, I believe moko is an art form that can actually heal us. You know, it has so much depth to it that you know, it potentially could you know, put us in good stead and make us more aware of our purpose. You know, give us a you know, something to shoot for.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's a rongoa. I really believe that it is a rongoa. It's a healing, powerful tool that we have, luckily, been gifted by our ancestors. You know, all we have to do is research it, you know. So defining the styles of moko, I think that's the next step. You know, stop fucking fusing moko with fucking everything else, you know. There's enough of that shit out there already. We don't need to do it with our stuff. Our stuff is good to go as it is.
Yeah.
All we need to do is learn about it, you know, and that's easy. You get together with other artists and you wānanga. I know Hohua Mohi up in Aotearoa and his crew up there, they have wānanga about moko and stuff like that. And those types of things, those are really good wānanga to be a part of, because, you know, it just gives a clearer understanding of some form of direction we need to go, you know, instead of just all out. You know, I mean, there's a time and a place for that sort of stuff. I'm not saying that that's not the way to go. You know, everybody is at different levels of awareness and consciousness about, you know, their skill. So, I mean, it's things that develop over the years. Since I've been down into Waipouna, one of the things that I've tried to do is strip back all the bullshit, you know. Take away all the fancy stuff and just get it right back to those 3 lines, those just line work, you know, just black, and try and study more and more the styles from the north, talking to people about the north, you know, and just putting that all in so that it starts to become not mine but ours, you know. I hate it when people say, oh yeah, that's a Gordon Toi or a this or a that, you know. I want fucking people to say, man, that's from the north, you know. I just can't fucking stand it. That's what they do in the art world, in the Pākehā world. Oh yes, that's a Van Gogh, or that's a this or that's a that. Fuck that, you know. I'm a representative of my people from the north. So when they look at my work, that's them too. You know, it's not just me. So yeah, getting back into that sort of space where we can take it right back to its roots, you know, to the whakapapa of it, you know. That's really important. I mean, that's what moko is all about. It's about whakapapa. And if you ain't got it, you ain't got it. And be fucking honest about it, you know. Don't try and fucking bullshit, because we can read this shit, you know. I mean, to me, it's like I can read moko better than I can read out of a book, you know? You know, to me, fucking books are some other cunt's perspective of something, you know? But when I look at moko and I look at carving and I look at our art forms, those things don't lie, man, you know? What you see is what you get, you know? And you might not always like what you see, but that's okay, because that's a part of who we are, you know? We have to accept everything that's good about us and everything that's bad, you know. You can't appreciate good if you haven't been bad, you know. You know.
I get it sort of reminiscent of the creation story, where in the beginning it was all chaos, as all the atua were forming and becoming into their own and finding their place, and it's kind of like that story again, because it's a new beginning with what's been happening, and if you're describing it as this chaos happening at the moment until everything finds its place and has its own identity in a way.
Yeah. I think the chaos is necessary.
Yeah.
Because that'll, eventually, if we hang in there long enough, it will fruit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you imagine if people like Hone Harawira and Hannah Jackson and Eva Rickard and Whina Cooper, if these people didn't stand up for our rights, where the fuck we would be? Fellas like Tamaiti and Annette Sykes and all these people that stood up for our rights, man, back in the 70s, had enough. If that's chaos, man. They cause chaos. But out of that chaos, we've got kohanga reo, we've got kura, we've got wānanga, we've got moko, we've got our reo, we've got all these things.
Yeah.
Because of people, creating that bloody chaos, that awareness, and getting out there and having the fucking balls to do it as well. I can remember when I was, back in, the early 80s, even my own family was saying, yeah, you fellas are going up to Waitangi and you're shaming us all out and you're doing this and you're blah, blah, blah. I mean, hey, man, it worked.
Yeah.
Because it brought about consciousness. Fuck, you turn the TV on in the morning, and even the morning show, they're going kia ora, and they're talking in Māori. That came out of that chaos, man, And so I honestly believe that Moko will do the same. And this period that we're in, this chaos, it's necessary. It's necessary. But we need the soldiers to stand up and sort of say, well, okay, here's the line in the sand, bro. This is where I'm going.
Yeah.
And you can choose to either follow or fucking get left in the dust, And that, that's reality. We all can't be fucking Jedis and fucking tohungas, and, there's very limited spaces.
Yeah.
And you just got to keep, believing and trusting in that process, man.
Awesome. Well, that's a pretty poignant thing to finish up on. It's an awesome kōrero there, man. Like, is anything else, or we're good with that? And
nah, bro, I'm all good, man. If you're happy, I'm happy.
Yeah, that's cool. That was a good chat, man. That was awesome. Thank you so much.
Sweet ass, bro. Sweet ass.
Yeah. Thank you.
Ka pai.
Welcome to the Alchemy of Tattooing, Wisdoms of Ancestor Tattoo, where we explore and revive the ancient understandings and methods of tattooing for transformation, creation, and shifting into a higher vibration through processes so effective that it seems like magic. Or is it indeed the true definition of magic? The Alchemy of Tattooing.